Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to The Brian Nichols Show. Well, hey there, folks. Brian Nichols here on another episode of The Brian Nichols Show Week in Review. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our lovely Cardio Miracle studios here in sunny Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is powered by our phenomenal studio sponsor, Cardio Miracle, as well as our phenomenal show sponsors, Amp America. Amp America, head over to ampamerica.com. Get all the news you need to know without the corporate media bias or fluff. News, articles, opinion pieces, podcasts, and more over at ampamerica.com, which, by the way, we're going to talk about a few articles over from Amp America in today's conversation with our good buddy Remzo Martinez. Stand by. But also, with that being said, a special shout out to our phenomenal studio sponsors, Cardio Miracle. Now, you guys have heard me ranting and raving about Cardio Miracle here on the show for like a year and a half at this point. And that's because the Cardio Miracle difference is 1000% real. I say that as someone who's been using Cardio Miracle, watching my heart get stronger and stronger with my blood pressure dropping and my cardiovascular strength increasing. You want to learn more about Cardio Miracle and all the amazing benefits that come along with it? Stick around. We'll talk about that later in today's episode. But yes, I mentioned for today's conversation, we are, in fact, doing a week in review, and joining us from Amp America, our good buddy. You can find him on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram at Go Remzo, Facebook and Twitter, Hey Remzo W. Martinez. Welcome back to Amp America's Week in Review. How you been, buddy?
This is definitely 2 p.m. on a Saturday. Somebody, I went to a ribbon cutting. We had our first Raising Cane's chicken open up here in Brookfield, Virginia, and I dress like a pro. I show up in a suit, and a lot of small business owners don't. Because I think they fall into like I'm a small business owner, so I look like Mitt Romney on the campaign trail in 2012 with jeans and the rolled up sleeves, like he actually dresses like that. But no,
and your binder full of women,
and dog on the roof. So like I show up in a suit, and people actually, like, some of the folks that are in like the local chamber of commerce, like, they'll tease me. They're like, "Why'd you wear a suit for this?" And I'm like,
why do you look professional?
Because I'm the man. And typically I've tried to just because I want to, not because I felt pressured, but I try and look better when I'm on camera. So just some pretext, like I'm dealing with a situation where I got my parents moving in Virginia. I've got a lot of stuff moving around. I got some stuff going on in Arizona. So right now I'm trying to make room for my things. So half of my day so far, and this is going to be a working Saturday for me. Half my day has been trying to like get rid of my comic books. So I've been like calling up friends. I'm like, "Do you want like a stack of stuff for your kid?" and stuff like that. I was at the post office. I was at a half price book. I was at the half price books twice. So here I am. I'm just like running around, and I wanted to put on a nice polo for you, Brian. And then I'm at the half price books for an extra half hour because they don't know what they want to give me 50 cents or 75 cents for a comic. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm wearing a tie-dye shirt and my cap, and we're just going to make it fucking happen. Because
you look great.
For you, the people.
You look great, Remzo. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And if anybody bullies you, you let them know that you were on the Brian Nichols Show, and Brian does not tolerate that bigotry.
Does not fuck around with that. No,
I don't. Absolutely not. By the way, folks, we are live. We are live on our YouTubes and on Twitter. Big fuck you to Facebook for going out and deciding. Okay, this is my rant session for a second, Remzo. So I shared a meme on Facebook where it was the literal context of the meme was societies where, regardless of how you feel about gun control, you need to be aware of the history of what societies who have implemented in massive gun control have done to their populations. And it was a picture of Hitler with the swastika and like obviously talking about Nazi Germany. Facebook's like, "Oh, he's a Nazi," and they gave me like a huge
radicalism.
Dude, like a massive strike on my page. They removed monetization. They crushed my page. So I'm like, dude, what the fuck is happening? I went in, I put a appeal in, and instantly gets declined from their automated process. I'm like at the point right now, I'm still waiting in queue to see if the Facebook board hears my case. But like that happens. And then I'm not kidding. Somebody had shared a reel. And in the reel, this is completely like a different side conversation, but the reel ends with like, want to hear how this reel ends? Go down to the comments and share your birthday and your teacher's first grade teacher's last name, which is obviously a ploy to get PII, personal identifiable information, which is a big no-no. And me being the good Samaritan, I'm like, hey, Facebook, reporting this video, right? Because this is an obvious attempt.
Literal scammer.
This is all they're doing. I get the notice today saying, sorry, we actually decided to keep that video on Facebook. So they nuke not just my entire channel, they've throttled it down to like 0 engagement whatsoever. So that is fun. But then when there's actual scams that are being reported, that it's quite obvious they're a scam, they're like, nah, bro, that's a-okay. So I say all that, Remzo, we are not live streaming today on Facebook. We are instead live streaming over on the second worst platform, YouTube, as well as over on our good buddies Elon Musk platform, Twitter, or now known as X. So if you are joining us today, thank you for joining us. Head down below into the comments or in the replies. Let us know what your thoughts are today. We'll go ahead, maybe read them on air, because yes, we are live for our weekend review here on Amp America, Brian Nichols Show weekend review with our good buddy Remzo Martinez. Now, Remzo, for today's conversation, we're kicking things off. And actually, I know you didn't mean to do this, but this goes right in line with one of the conversations I had for our Brian's briefing this past week. And it was the conversation I had about the immigration debate and how there seems to be this, I want to say willful ignorance, and that's my being nice here. But it's not, it really can't be willful ignorance. I think it's almost borderline useful idiotness, it feels like. And we're talking about right now what we're seeing as the actual outcomes of unfettered immigration, of just folks literally pouring over the border. Right now, it's turning into like literal hellscapes in some of these larger cities. You look at Aurora, Colorado, where literal Venezuelan gangs have taken over apartment complexes. And here we are today. Violent crime is creating a, quote, dystopian hell, despite the calm, reassuring words from our, yes, leader, our fearless leader, Joseph Biden, that America is safer. And this is, of course, an argument that Kamala Lala Ding Dong is going to be carrying into the election, that we are a safer country because of the Biden-Harris administration policies. Remzo Martinez, where are they getting things wrong? Where did I get things wrong? Talk to us about what's going on right now with the flux of illegal immigrants into these cities.
There's a town in Wisconsin called Prairie du Chien, and it has about 15,000 people. They have brought in about another 10,000 immigrants from Haiti that were caught across the southern border. These Haitian immigrants have also been dropped off in a town. I think it was either Illinois or Minnesota. It's one of those two. It was a town of about 25,000 people, and they went ahead and dropped off over the course of the last year 20,000 Haitian immigrants. And what they started realizing is that a lot of pets in neighborhoods started going missing. A lot of the kennels were starting to empty out. But what
that's nice. That's nice. No, that's nice, Remzo. That means that more people are adopting these animals. They're at a nice home now. I see no downsides to this.
Well, if you like ducks, you could say bye to ducks, because what they have found in that these homes that the state has been providing families where, it's not even just families, it's, 10, 15 people that they're putting in a 4-bedroom home, that they are taking animals that they're finding and they're eating them.
Oh, so they're not safe and sound. Okay.
They're not. So, if Fluffy went missing, Fluffy probably got turned into barbecue. That's just a recent example. The other issue that we're seeing here in Whitewater, Wisconsin, is that and this is why I laugh about Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a very quote unquote progressive city, but we anytime anyone comes to to the city who's illegal, like we kick them back to Illinois. Well, Illinois, because Texas has been busing hordes of illegals to Chicago, Illinois has just been like randomly busing them to Wisconsin, but they couldn't get away with it in Milwaukee County. So what they did was they went ahead and dropped them off in Whitewater, Wisconsin. And what you're having right now is you had a giant influx of children, quote unquote children and teenagers, where their age is not matching their physicality, their age is not matching their
all I can think of is it the bench warmers? I am
9.
I am 12.
You look like a 30-year-old man. You have a mustache.
I have birth certificate. I am 12.
It's like you're having that happen. So what you're doing is you're taking a small town in the Midwest United States, you're flooding it with people who are immediately needing public services. And what you're also doing is homelessness has went up, drug uses went up, violent crime went up. But now what you're doing is you're putting like literal men in schools. And
that sounds like nothing could go wrong there, right?
Nothing could go wrong there. So then, I mean, that's just in my neck of the woods. And I learned a lot about this in the last couple of days. I also attended a panel discussion for Trump Force 47 in Milwaukee. Governor Doug Burgum was there. Wisconsin governor, longest serving governor, Tommy Thompson was there with Congressman Brian Stile and Monica Crowley. And they were discussing this. It's like, it's just they're coming here. And immediately they're being dumped in places where it's like, they can't look for jobs because they're illegal immigrants. They can't have job permits. So what do? We're having border patrol down in the southern border. Instead of sending people back, instead of actually dealing with the fact that, listen, your first act in the United States was to break the law. It was to come here illegally. What they're doing, no
humans illegal, Remzo.
Yeah, shut the fuck up, people. We've turned border patrol into a paper pushing business where we're basically giving people a summons for a court appearance, which may be as far as a year. And then what we're doing is we're giving them a phone, we're giving them gas cards, and we're sending them to a place where hopefully we're hoping that they don't go away. You look at New York State, a majority of folks that were bussed around the country because of the situation, they're told, okay, you're going to stay here for this foreseeable future, but you can't work because you're an illegal alien. So what we're going to do is we're going to take care of your housing and your food and everything else because we need you to stay for this court date in which who knows if they'll even send you back home because you broke the law. But now what we're seeing is that these people are missing. When you look at the population of Wisconsin, I don't have the number on top of my head, but like when you look at the population of Wisconsin, Joe Biden every year, the past 4 years, has been bringing in the population of Wisconsin
5.8 million people.
So they are bringing in a whole state worth of people every year since the Biden administration turned us not into an open border country. They've essentially turned us into a no border country. Because when you begin to go ahead and make it so that way the civil systems cannot maintain things for the citizenry, what you're getting is a point where you're getting folks that are just overblowing the system. And they're coming here because Joe Biden said, you can come. And then Kamala said, well, you can't come.
She said, do not come. Do not.
And then they all looked at her as they were.
And then Trump said, I'm going to come.
What we're getting right now is we're getting, thousands of people from Venezuela. We're getting thousands of people from El Salvador, Nigeria, Pakistan, China. We've even found North Koreans coming up through the southern border because everyone knows that America is not protecting the border. And if they catch you, it doesn't mean shit. And we cannot have a country if we cannot enforce our own laws and if we're not taking care of our own citizens first. And, the big thing everyone is joking about right now are these Venezuelan gangs. They were the largest, narcotics trafficking gang and human trafficking gang in Venezuela. What Nicolas Maduro did was he went ahead and released them, and then he said, leave the country. So they left the country, and where did they end up? They ended up in Illinois. They ended up in Colorado. There are rumors that they're even in Indiana. So what they're doing is they're filling up the Midwest because you can't keep sending them to California because California, what are they going to do for their homeless plan? to get rid of homelessness, they're just going to kick out homeless people. Like that episode of South Park where they're just like, go to California. Well, now they're going to be like, hey, homeless people, go literally anywhere else. So what we have is we have these states, and to some degree, I don't blame Texas for doing this, but what we're starting to see is that Texas is going to do what they can to take care of Texas. And now it's really at the expense of everyone else. And it's because of these sanctuary cities. It's because of these sanctuary cities. It's because of this no border policy by the Biden administration. I would have never thought in my life I would support mass deportation. But the thing is if you come here and you come here illegally, and then you come here and we don't know who you are, and you're going to be on the government dole, and you're going to not be assimilating, and you're going to be making things as difficult as possible. We didn't ask you to be here. We didn't necessarily want you to come here if this is what you were doing. We take in legal immigrants, and the country brings in enough legal immigrants where it's like, you know what? We could reform the process. There's a whole discussion there, but you come to this country legally. Why is it every other country on earth gets to support its borders? Why is it we spend so much of our taxpayer dollars enforcing the borders in Ukraine, or enforcing the borders in Israel, or enforcing the borders in Iraq or Afghanistan? We care about everyone's borders but our own. No, if you came to this country and you came here illegally, you broke the law. You can't be here. We can't support you. We can barely support ourselves. It's not a hateful thing. It's saying that this is not the process. This is not how it should be done. My family came here legally. Millions of Americans came here legally. We need to stop trying to adjust the scale. You broke the law or you didn't. We are a country with borders because we have to maintain things for our citizens. And this has just gone out of hand.
There we go.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
I'm going to come.
It's one of my favorite clips from the past 4 years, and that only took me 7 minutes in order to actually get it to pop up the way it needed to. So thank you, Remzo, for monologuing. And by the way, just elephant in the room, you're spot on. We are watching right now our literal country lose its identity, and in the process of losing its identity, we're seeing not just the very fabric of what makes America crumble. We're watching the infrastructure that makes America crumble, because you have to have the contribution as much as you do the folks who are taking away. And that's just not the case right now. What is the number one cost from our federal government right now? It's unfunded liabilities, specifically that's not even talking literal trillions, hundreds of trillions of dollars unfunded liabilities, but specifically, let's look at the social services, right? Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all of that money, that's over, I think it's 60% of our budget. What? That's insane. So with all that being said, I know for most folks who are listening today, they're probably like, wow, okay, things are kind of scary. This doesn't sound too great. And maybe you just want to go ahead and get out of the country. Well, if that's the case, our next sponsor here might be a good place to go ahead and figure out what next steps would be. And that is the Expat Money Summit. Let's take a listen.
Attention, Brian Nichols Show listeners. Mark your calendar for October 7th through the 11th, because the Expat Money Summit is back and better than ever. This online event hosted by expat expert Mikkel Thorup is your one-stop shop for learning how to craft your ideal international lifestyle. From acquiring a second passport to diversifying your finances offshore to investing in international real estate, you're going to learn from over 40 experts, including big names like Dr. Ron Paul and Doug Casey. And the best part, it's completely free to attend. Just head over to expatmoneysummit.com to reserve your complimentary ticket. Take the first steps towards securing your freedom and wealth abroad at the Expat Money Summit. One more time, that's expatmoneysummit.com. And now, back to the show.
All right, Remzo W. Martinez, let's get back to the show, shall we? And with that, let's go ahead and talk about, if I can actually get my screen to share properly again. We're doing this on the fly, folks. There we go.
Live.
We were live. We are live. Yes, we are live on X and on YouTube. So thank you for joining us. It looks like, we got a couple hundred folks coming in and out of the stream here. What's up, everybody? Good to see y'all. So great replacement job shock. Great replacement. Are we talking about great replacement theory here? No. I didn't share my screen. What the hell am I doing here today, Remzo? Good grief.
Amateur hour, Brian. Amateur.
100%. You think after doing this for almost fucking 8 years, I should figure out how to share screens. Great replacement job shock. 1.3 million native-born Americans just lost their jobs, and they were replaced by whom? Whom, you might ask? 635,000 illegal immigrants, or just immigrants. Let me rephrase that. Just 635,000 immigrants. But yes, there are some caveats here, which includes some of those potentially illegal individuals we were talking about earlier. Remzo, what's going on here with this great replacement of great big jobs?
I got into an argument at CPAC 2017 with somebody who was basically an anti-free trader. And I was like, dude, you don't know the glory of free trade. You're obviously not educated enough. This man, for the record, was a trucker, was a teamster who came from the rural Midwest. And I was just a belligerent college kid. And what he basically said to me was, what he basically said to me was like, you know, when you look at all this outsourced labor, what do you do with people who have been working for decades, who are close to retirement, and then you expect them to get a new job? What do you do when you're providing enough of the infrastructure for somebody else's country, but your own communities are becoming industrial deserts? I used to think, well, you know, if you're just so dumb, get a new skill, learn to code. But the truth is that the best safety net for anybody is a job.
Yep.
And what we've done right now, for the sake of just trying to focus on a purely consumer level, is that we have shipped out thousands of millions of jobs overseas to develop other countries, to develop other people's middle classes. But we've done so that America has become more of a service provider nation and not a industrial nation. And
which, by the way, thank you, unintended consequences, because what happens when we arbitrarily raise our fucking corporate tax rates to be the highest in the first world nations? Like, yeah, businesses are going to say, I don't want to spend more here, which I want to. Let me rephrase that. I want to spend my money here with hiring American-born workers, but economically speaking, you're making it so you're forcing my hand to move out of the country to other areas that are more business friendly. That's just basic economics.
Yeah, and what you'll get is a lot of free market scholars who will be like, well, look at Europe, where, you know, like the Scandinavian countries have turned into mainly like service provider countries, and they were never historically industrial. I'm like, really? You're gonna compare the United States to the Netherlands or Denmark or Sweden? Like, you're
the same.
You're gonna, yeah, like obviously you're gonna be able to make a fair comparison. No, what has happened is, and I believe that our side has actually been, our side has to take fault for this. I'll say this. You know, in my first book, Stay Away from the Libertarians, which was a look at the libertarian movement post Ron Paul 2012, I have a chapter, and it kind of ties into our previous topic, called you know, taco trucks on every corner. And I talk about the free flow of, you know, of ideas, and you know, the freedom of mobility and stuff like that, and the net positive that immigration has on a country, and all of that I still believe. To the previous topic, there's a very clear difference between somebody that wants to come to this country and assimilate to this country, because I would never ever go to Saudi Arabia and expect them to all speak English and expect them to conform to my, you know, Anglo-Christian ways. And then I would never anticipate that I would bring over my entire family through chain migration and then try and buy up the levels of power to, you know, start imposing our minority views on the native population. I wouldn't do that, but people try and do that to this country. So when you have people that come in that want to be American, that want to not shed their identity, but join it to the American identity, that's a beautiful thing. We're not seeing that. Same goes for the purpose of jobs. What we've done is we've basically said we will bring in anybody for the sake of trying to cut costs. And that's a gray area, because a lot of businesses want to hire American. A lot of businesses, like, I'm going to get, if I go missing, I am totally happy and healthy, and I'm of sound mind, and I have plans to travel in the next 30 days. The Koch brothers.
He says it, not me, just for everyone playing along in the home game.
The Koch brothers have done so much to try and bring in as much cheap labor into this country purely for the sake of it being cheap labor. Because what we've said is that Americans don't want these jobs. It's like, no, Americans just don't want to work that the wage that somebody from Central and South America will, because they don't want to live in a 4-bedroom house with 15 people. Americans, we're one of the few countries in existence that have a middle class. What we're seeing is a situation where we're going to get the extremely wealthy, and we're going to get the people that have to go deliver Uber Eats during the next lockdown.
Yep.
This is a war on the middle class, and our side has been part of it. And that's a really rough thing to say.
Guilty.
So when we look at the stuff that Trump is doing, Trump has straight up said, we can replace the income tax of tariffs. Yeah, I would much rather do that. When he was president years ago and people were like, hey, why are you throwing all these tariffs on there? What's he say? He's like, okay, let's have unilateral free trade. But the world doesn't work our way. And what we're seeing now is that, we either focus on our communities and our families and do what we do for ourselves, much like other countries look for the best interest of their own countries, or we're going to get to the point where it's like we're going to have to work 5 jobs. We're going to be like most millennials that will never own a home. The middle class is dying, and we have to stop seeing this as a left or right issue. It's a globalist issue.
Yep. Well, and by the way, this was the episode I did this week for my Brian's briefing. Because Remzo, you hit the nail on the head, right? Like there is there's more or less this useful idiot mentality. And by the way, guilty. I've been guilty of this because back when I started the show, I was intoxicated by libertarian ideals, right? Like when you first dip your toe into libertarianism, you kind of are like, oh man, this is a beautiful idea. Like non-aggression, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. I want to share it with everybody.
I was an open borders libertarian.
And like, I never got to the point I was open borders, but I was like much more empathetic to having that conversation with folks and kind of laying back and saying, all right, convince me, right? Like, let me see the arguments. And I would say after about a year and a half of this show and talking to folks who I would say are much more idealistic, and borderline utopian in their perspectives of what this perfect world could look like, I realized that there is the ideal and there is the libertarian dogma that is it's supported and it's encouraged by the groupthink of libertarian echo chambers. However, there's also this thing called the real world. And the unfortunate reality is that everybody else in the real world are not overtly libertarian. And this is an argument that I also had to kind of get kicked in the teeth until I realized it, is that people are not inherently libertarian at their core. I used to believe that. I thought, well, everybody's libertarian until they realize it, right? Like, but the opposite is true. I think people maybe go in thinking maybe I am a libertarian or I'm empathetic with libertarianism, and then something happens where they're like, oh, just kidding. And by the way, the big blinking red light for me on that was COVID. I watched people who I had been talking to for years, who were empathetic to libertarian ideas, or at least were open to having a debate or a dialogue with me, all of a sudden be like, let's lock down. If you don't listen to the experts or trust the science, you're a bigot and you are a danger to society because you want grandma to die. Oh, you're not wearing 3 masks outside? Who do you think you are? You didn't get triple jabbed? What? Like, that scared the hell out of me, because not only are there these people I thought were more empathetic to libertarian ideas, but they were also people who were very near and dear to me in my personal life. Like dudes literally in my wedding who just suddenly not just turned against me, like actively were fighting me because they thought I was a danger. Now, those relationships, candidly, Remzo, like they're never going to be what they were, right? Like once you see it, you can't unsee it. We talk about that in sales. It's also true in life. And I saw that side of my friends, and it hurt. But it was a big wake up call. And candidly, like as much as it sucked, it was a wake up call I needed. And I think a lot of other libertarians needed as well, because we saw this, like the main point of contention at the libertarian convention. How about that? I didn't mean to do that. The main point of contention at the libertarian convention was not so much
the libertarian bona fides of Chase Oliver or Michael Rechtenwald or Mike Termott, nobody really was doing the who's more libertarian thing. What did happen, though, was, did you get it? Do you see what happened over the past 4 years? Did that change your perspective on how you approach these issues and these conversations? And I've said this many a time here on the show since Chase won the nomination. I don't have anything personally against him, but I look at him and I say, you don't get it. You're so intoxicated by the libertarian idea, which again, I love, that you let that cloud your vision in terms of what's actually happening in the real world. And what happened in the real world, Remzo, was that we had I would say, largest attack on human liberty across the country and across the freaking planet that we have ever seen. And if you don't look at that and just raise an eyebrow when people were saying, trust the experts, or like socially destroying people who didn't jump in line with you better get your double jab and then get a booster every 6 months, those people, right? That mindset, if you didn't start to question that, I don't think you get it. And if you don't get it, as where we are in 2024, then it doesn't matter how much you love the ideas of liberty or the ideas of libertarianism if you can't apply it in the real world. And this, again, full transition to where we started. There is this open borders mentality in the greater libertarian movement, and it is based in fantasy. It is based in idealism. It is based in utopia. And the reality is that you will never get to that point because it requires a variable that you cannot control. And that is that everybody in the world will agree and live by the rules you're putting in place from a principled libertarian perspective. And that's just not what happens.
Yeah, you're not trying to change minds. Like, you're trying to change biology.
Literal change biology. You're trying to mentally reprogram somebody in areas that they cannot be mentally reprogrammed.
I've said this about China, and I said this about a lot of friends of mine who are policy wonks in DC. I'm like, you will not ever be able to hold enough summits or do enough white papers or do enough, debates with China, because odds are they know the exact arguments you're going to play against them.
And they don't care.
They don't care. They don't care. So what are we supposed to do with an empire that does not care? We have to accept them for who they are, which is they're going to be a geopolitical threat. All this stuff is done the last 4 years. Like, everything we do to weaken ourselves just strengthens China. And they're never, I don't ever see it like Red Dawn, like with North Korea, in the shit Red Dawn that no one talks about, where North Korea invades.
I forgot they redid the movie. It was terrible.
I saw it on Max the other night, and I'm like, why would they even stream this? Just stream the Swayze one. But
they actually had it run back to back. It was that G.I. Joe and then Battleship.
But something like that would never happen. And I don't believe that China would ever attempt to invade the mainland United States, because that would just be, even if, they win the war, it's like, what does that look like? You don't need to ever shoot a gun at an enemy and destroy them. You just have to break them culturally. You have to break them civilly, and you have to break them economically. And, libertarians, they never, ever talk about the crime angle on any of these issues, because, government is the only bad thing in the world. Under Joe Biden, human trafficking across the southern border of the United States has hit historic levels. Human trafficking across the world is something that they just completely ignore. I've never heard a libertarian talk about human trafficking. Mm-hmm. And the only anti-human trafficking president we have had in the last decade has been Donald Trump.
There it is. So, man, if this conversation has your blood boiling, yeah, it's got my blood boiling too. And you know what? That's not good for your heart. So with that being said, check out our good friends over at Cardio Miracle. Hey folks, I want to take a moment to talk about something that has truly changed my life, and that is Cardio Miracle, our incredible studio sponsor. Now, I'll be honest, when I first heard about Cardio Miracle and their claims about improving heart health, I was skeptical, but after using it for just about 2 months, I was absolutely blown away by the results. First, my blood pressure went from being consistently around 140/90 to a much more healthier and manageable 120/80, and my resting heart rate dropped from the low 70s to the high 50s, and I couldn't believe it. But the benefits didn't stop there. I started sleeping better, and I felt more energized at the gym, and my heart felt the best it's felt in years. And it's not just me. Hundreds of you, our amazing listeners, have reached out to share your own incredible experiences with Cardio Miracle. So, what is Cardio Miracle? And how does it work? It's a carefully crafted supplement that harnesses the power of nitric oxide to support optimal heart function. So, by increasing nitric oxide levels in your blood, Cardio Miracle helps relax your blood vessels, improve circulation, and it protects your heart from damage. It's like giving your heart the support it needs to function at its best. And here's the best part. We've got an exclusive offer just for you, our loyal listeners here at The Brian Nichols Show. When you head over to cardiomiracle.com and use code TBNS at checkout, you'll get an extra 15% discount on your order. Plus, with their 100% money-back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So, if you're ready to take control of your heart health and experience the life-changing benefits of Cardio Miracle for yourself, just click the link in the show notes or video description. Trust me, your heart will thank you. And don't wait another day to prioritize your health. Join the tens of thousands of folks who have already discovered the Cardio Miracle difference. Head to cardiomiracle.com now and use code TBNS for 15% off your order. Your journey to a happier and healthier heart starts today. And now, let's get back to the show.
All right, Remzo. Back in 2021, my heart was also not doing too great. It was because of family genetics, but also, candidly, because of where I lived. For folks who have been longtime listeners of the Brian Nichols Show, y'all remember I used to live in Philadelphia. I lived there for 7 years. I did not like it, but I'll be very, very transparent. The worst of it was the final 2 years, and that was during COVID, which is why I left Philadelphia. But, it's funny. Philadelphia, and specifically the great state of Pennsylvania, the Keystone states, not even a state, it's a commonwealth. They are, it turns out, the keystone to this election. Remzo, how was that for a transition? Let's go to our final article here today, actually coming right from AMP America. And yes, it all comes down to Pennsylvania as the 2024 election heats up. Trump is back in the state for more town halls. I know our good buddy Cliff Maloney, he's in Pennsylvania doing a lot there with the PA chase. Remzo, how did Pennsylvania end up being such a pivotal state when it comes to this election?
What we're trying to finally see right now is whether or not Republicans can adapt. And we're seeing this through Turning Point Action, through Scott Presler's early vote action, through the Pennsylvania chase. It's that Republicans win if Republicans actually show up. And what we've been able to see is that the Democrats, they took their mail-in voting efforts in 2020 for granted because we were dealing with a big historical issue, which was the fact that people were afraid to go out to vote. So what they did was they went ahead and they voted via mail. They went ahead and actually did that. The thing is, though, is that I think the number is 80,000 Republicans sat out in 2020. They didn't vote in person and they didn't vote by mail. That was the margin needed to guarantee that Donald Trump would have won the election. Now what's happening right now is you have Nate Silver, love him or hate him, who has said that if Trump wins Pennsylvania, he has more than a 60% chance of pulling off the entire thing. Because when you look at the demographics, when you look at the socioeconomics, when you look at a majority of the issues at play for working and middle-class Americans, if he wins Pennsylvania, he could potentially win Wisconsin, potentially win Michigan. That eliminates the blue wall. And you go ahead and you look at what's going on with Arizona. Turning Point Action is doing a lot of the effort in Arizona. Trump, who lost Arizona. And I've never, I used to say this, I used to go on Ben Stein's show a lot. And
I forgot about that. How's he doing, by the way?
He's still doing stuff. But
which is crazy because he's like in his 80s.
Yeah.
Bueller.
But he, I used to go on this show and I used to tell people it's like, I don't know whether or not shenanigans played a role in the 2020 election. I think a lot of things changed. Arizona is one of those places where when you look at the voting machines and the weird times that poll watchers were kicked out, and when certain things arrived in Maricopa County, which is where it flipped the state blue for Biden, that's the one place where I look at that, and that's weird. And plenty of people, including Project Veritas, when it was under James O'Keefe, pointed out a lot of irregularities in the Philadelphia suburbs in 2020. The thing is whether you believe something happened or not. And I've never said that I'm one way or another. I believe that it's state by state. I believe in Wisconsin, while there were definitely some problems here in the state, I believe that Biden won Wisconsin. The thing is that even if you're concerned, like, oh, I'm afraid to vote because they might cheat, I forget who brought it up. It's like you have to have, it was Brett Weinstein of all people. Liberal Brett Weinstein, who is, I don't know why he calls himself a Democrat all the time. Like I don't know why he keeps doing that. It must be a shtick. But he's like, if we just show up in the mail-in vote across the board, across the country alone, especially in those battleground states, we surpass the margin of potential cheating. So my thing is this, and I'm not saying one thing or another, but what I'm saying is that when Republicans show up, they win.
Yep.
This is the case with Pennsylvania. And, they finally adapted to it. Now I'm in Wisconsin. I am still going to vote on election day in person, but it's one of the situations where it's just like, this isn't the sit out election.
Right.
You straight up have seen what a Biden presidency looks like and what a Trump presidency looks like. And if you thought Biden was bad, Harris is all of that on crack.
Yup.
There's a clip that Cliff went ahead and posted on X, and we pull that up real fast because he says it better than I do.
Yeah, keep monologuing. I'll go ahead and share.
Yeah, so I mean, what they've gone ahead and done for the Pennsylvania chase, which is going out and actually knocking on the doors of people that have received a mail-in ballot, what they're doing is they're going and making sure that they have actually filled out that ballot and turned it in. And the reason why is because the money in advertising in the latter stages of the election, especially as we're here in the last 60 days, if you know who already voted, if you know how many people have already shown up or how already cast their ballots, that's less money that you have to spend on phone calls and everything else. The Democrats spend less in the last couple of weeks of the election than Republicans do because they've always pressured people to vote by mail.
By the way, the just to qualify before we share this video, I really do like Cliff, but as a Cowboys fan, I just need to make sure I flash this on screen with him wearing Eagles.
Are you a Cowboys fan by like choice?
By I guess by genetics. Is my dad's favorite team, and I grew up watching it in the 90s.
I would have more respect for you if you said that it was because of your wife. When I got married, I became a
rabbit hole or.
When I got married, somehow something happened to me and I became like a Baltimore Orioles and Ravens fan. I didn't even know why, but at least I could blame my wife on that. You're going to throw your dad under for that? Wow.
I mean, he made me watch it during the 90s, man. I was in upstate New York, so it was either that, the Bills, or the Giants. Which not a big fan.
Anyway, year? You don't think this is the year for the Jets?
There's just something telling me probably not. Danny Dimes, more like Danny Pennies. Funny joke. The Eagles were down in Brazil here yesterday. Last night they had a game in Brazil. The Eagles won, and it was really interesting to see Kellen Moore, former offensive coordinator for the Cowboys, suddenly doing some like things he never did for the Cowboys with the Eagles. But this is not Cowboys Eagles NFL talk. This is the Brian Nichols Show. Let's listen to what Cliff. I almost said Chase, not Chase. Let's see what Cliff has to say about the PA chase and where things are looking.
I keep getting all these people online coming after me saying, Cliff, you're cherry picking the numbers. You're only showing the Democrat returns in 2020 compared to 2024, and the same thing with Republicans. All right, so we pulled the 2022 numbers today, and I couldn't believe it. I had to run the numbers 3 or 4 times with my team. Listen to this. In 2022, Democrat mail-in requests at this time compared to right now for 2024, they're up 19%. Wow. Huge gains. Where are Republicans at? Republican mail-in requests from 2022 compared to right now, this far off in the election, they're up 85%. Folks, we came to win. Republicans are adapting. We're fighting fire with fire. We're going to beat the Democrats at their own tactics in 2024. Time's up.
So there you go.
If you vote, you win.
Yep.
And this is truer in Pennsylvania than it is anywhere else where it could turn into a coin toss. And Nate Silver has said Trump up in Wisconsin, pretty neck to neck there. Trump ahead in Michigan. Trump ahead in Arizona. Trump ahead in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
If people show up, if people figure out a plan where they show up or mail in, if their votes are counted, we keep Kamala Harris out of the White House. And if they do this enough, and if we and I'm not even saying like independents and libertarians, I'm saying Republicans, we have a majority in the House, we have a majority in the Senate. I'll say that because we have that in 2016. And we spent 4 years of not really doing much. It was Trump who had to essentially work through executive fiat to get a lot of stuff down. This is a different ballpark.
Yep.
This is a different situation. This is a different world. You might not take the man serious. You might take the man too literally, but people need to at least take him seriously. This is a different situation. So make a plan. Get out and vote.
There you go. Make a plan. And by the way, if you want to go ahead and actually make a difference, go knock on some doors because that is scientifically shown, as we've talked about many a time here on the show with many political consultant about how knocking on doors has the highest ROI for any candidate when you go out trying to actually win an election. So if you want to volunteer, go knock on doors for that candidate. Be the face for the campaign, which, by the way, when you're going out and knocking on doors, Remzo, that actually is going to require a lot of energy. And as such, you're going to need to be energized. So how about you go ahead and check out one of our brand new sponsors, Clockham Coffee. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Are you feeling trapped by big coffee? Yeah, they prioritize profits over quality, leaving you with an underwhelming cup. So let's break free from these corporate coffee chains, shall we? That's where Clockham Craft Coffee comes in. They started it with a quest for the perfect brew and grew into a passion for sharing coffee excellence. Their small batch artisanal approach ensures that every cup is a masterpiece. Embrace independence, choose Clockham Craft, and taste the freedom in every sip. Exclusive for the Brian Nichols Show audience, enjoy 10% off using code BNS10 at clockhamcraft.coffee. Link in the show notes. And now, let's get back to the show.
All right, Remzo. Let's go ahead and wrap things up with our final thoughts for today. Now, I guess my final thoughts, just to get things rolling, is that we are at a point right now where I think we as a country have to take a step back and we have to get out of the idealisms. Frankly, we have to, here, you brought up Ben Stein. He was in one of my favorite movies of all time, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And Ferris Bueller in Ferris Bueller's Day Off says, isms, in my opinion, are not a good thing. To quote John Lennon, I don't believe in, or I'm not the walrus. I just believe in me. I don't believe in Beatles. I just believe in me. Yep. He was the walrus. I could be the walrus, but still wouldn't change the fact I have to borrow rides off people because I still don't own a car. Great. One of the greatest movies of all time. Right. But I think right there, we have to get out of the isms, right? I am a libertarian, small L libertarian, conservative. I believe in the ideas of libertarianism coupled with the ideas of conservatism. I think that's where we're going to have the most success as a country, right? But that doesn't mean that I'm going to, just completely shut out any other conversation or people coming to the conversation who are aware of the problem and are in good faith trying to actually bring real tangible solutions that could help solve things. Right now, I mentioned this in the Brian's briefing this past week. It's going to require libertarians specifically as well. Like if we're trying to actually have contribution here to get out of what we see as the ideal, right? And again, the idealism, and that is the libertarian ideal. It's going to require us to make concessions, not on values or principles, but on tactics, right? We're going to have to build bridges with folks who maybe we don't agree 100%, but maybe we agree 85%, right? And build those relationships and understand that there's going to come a point where 1000% we're going to disagree. and we're gonna butt some heads, and that's okay. Let's get to that point. But we have a much larger problem that we need to address right now, and that is the fundamental direction of the country. Are we going to be a country that goes back to the ideas of meritocracy, of free markets, of individualism, of liberty? Or are we going to be a country that has continued to slip down this path of authoritarianism, censorship, corruption, favoritism, DEI? Like, is that going to be the country? And that is the tipping point right now that we are at. Now, this is not me full-throatedly. What was that word? Full-throatedly. I can do that. I can do that again. Full-throatedly. Say that 10 times fast, I guess. I am not going to full-throatedly endorse Donald Trump, nor am I ever going to endorse Donald Trump. I don't even know if I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. I'm in Indiana. I know he's going to win the state. I might not even vote. Heck, I may vote for RFK still. We'll see. I don't know. Chase, earn my vote. If you really want me to vote for you, Chase, earn my vote. Challenge to you. But with that being said, I look at where Donald Trump would lead the country versus where Kamala Harris is going to lead the country. And if I was in Pennsylvania, right back into that swing state, I will tell you right now, without question, my vote would be for Donald Trump. So if you are in a swing state and your vote does 1000% matter, vote for Trump. If you are in a state where, like me, I know my vote is not going to change the outcome of deep red Indiana, but go ahead and vote your conscience, vote your heart, and actually vote for what you'd like to see the system turn into. I think that's why I think RFK's continued role in the ballot, right? Trying to obtain 5% just to be a legitimate third party, which I think Americans desperately want.
You didn't see the fundraising email, did you?
What do you do? No, did he officially pull back or something like that? I saw you smirking, and I know I must be talking out my ass now. So what happened?
He said, ignore what I said last week. Everyone, everywhere, vote Donald Trump.
Holy shit, really? I did not know that.
Well, let's do this right now. Google RFK fundraiser letter.
Okay, hold on. For me while I pull this up, because RFK.
Oh, yeah, no, he got to the point where he was just like, fuck it. Like, we're in the end game now. Because his big thing is like, you know what? We can't mess around remotely, even in places we feel safe. If you want me in the Trump administration, you have to vote for him regardless of where you are.
Here. Yeah, holy shit.
I didn't want to call you out.
No, dude. I didn't even know this was a thing. When did that like yesterday? A day ago. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's why. This is why, folks, you come to the Brian Nichols Show for breaking news a day late. Because apparently I had no idea that this was a thing. Okay, let's continue reading. RFK Jr., the independent presidential candidate who recently endorsed Donald Trump, called on his supporters Thursday to vote for the Republican nominee no matter where they live, reversing instructions he gave 2 weeks ago as he encouraged voters to still vote for candidate if they lived in uncompetitive states. No matter what state you live in. I'm sorry, that's rude. I urge you to vote for Donald. I urge you to vote for Donald Trump, he wrote in the fundraising email. The reason is that the only way we can get me and everything I stand for into Washington, D.C. is to fulfill that mission that motivated my campaign. That, that tells me, Remzo, that tells me that there was a very candid heart-to-heart between Trump and RFK saying, what the fuck are you doing?
Bobby, what the hell? We
need everybody. Everybody needs to vote for me. That's the conversation that happened behind scenes. I can almost guarantee it. Wow. Okay. So I did not know that. All right, Chase, earn my vote now. There's your call to action. Remzo, that's all I have.
Oliver is a vote for communism.
Okay. I'll let you, for your final thoughts, take that on. Go for it.
A vote for Chase Oliver is a vote for communism.
Are you just trying to get my show just like hated by all the libertarians?
All the ones that are still listening to it.
That's a very fair point. Right. Which, ironically, Remzo, our numbers have never been better, and yet I have been the most combative with libertarians in the past calendar year.
Because people come here and they're finally getting those neurons pinging like logic, reality. It's like, what's happening? We're pulling people out of the matrix. Seriously.
Yeah.
A vote for Chase Oliver right now might as well not even count. So if you want to go vote for him, people, fine. But we need, and Doug Burgum brought this up the other day when he was in Milwaukee. He's like, and Tommy Thompson, who's one of the few Republican governors to win like every place, including Milwaukee County when he ran statewide. But like, Democrats often divorce their vote from the consequences. They vote Democrat and then they still get pissed off at Democrat things because they can't tie those things together. If you want Kamala Harris, vote for Chase Oliver. That's just it. He cannot become president. This isn't me saying, oh, your vote doesn't count, all this stuff. I've been the person, like, you can go and read all my stuff. Your vote is your vote. Your vote is this. But understand, right now, we're in a situation where unless we have sweeping bipartisan opportunities, and last I checked, the only person who has reached out to libertarians and Democrats, the only person bringing a unity coalition into a potential government next year is only Donald Trump.
That's 100% true.
So here's what I would say. If you want to see that libertarian, that big L libertarian that Trump said he would put in office, even be potentially Chase Oliver, a vote for Trump is what gets it.
There's the sales pitch. I mean, candidly, Remzo, that was
a vote
one
for
of the
Trump is a vote for Chase Oliver. That'll be the sticky point.
all the libertarians right now are collective. Yeah, all the big L, they're collectively screeching. I can already see the group chat is going to be just 1,000%.
No one with a weaker hairline than mine can argue with me.
That's why my hat's on, buddy. I know my flaws. Trust me. I'm not like Tim Pool wearing the beanie. I'm Brian Nichols wearing the hat, but it's probably for the same exact reason.
Mine is still nice in there, but every year, I'm turning 30 this year, it's getting a little bit crispier than it's been in the past.
So it's fun because usually when I'm at the studio here, I have my standing desk over here, and I have a TV that's on it, and I'll just throw my show on just to, help boost numbers. I'm not gonna lie. And I'll have it just like on like play mix on YouTube. And there was one episode. It's actually funny. I texted him yesterday, our good buddy Mark Claire, and I sent him. I just took a picture because his episode came up and it was from like 3 or 4 years ago, and I had significantly better hairline. And he was like, "Dude, I was so fat." I was like, dude, you're not fat. And he's like, no, I definitely was fat. And I was like, well, you can notice it in your jawline, but like, yeah, that's how long we've been doing the show. We're old, man. We're old. Okay. We'll wrap things up here. Oh, by the way, let's go ahead and give a shout out to Mr. Coville. He shared on Twitter, make common sense go viral. Yes, 1000%. And by the way, folks, if you forgot, we are live here on the Brian Nichols Show on 2 p.m. We started here on a Saturday afternoon. Usually we go live on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Candidly, I couldn't. My schedule was insane on Friday. The day job has been very, very busy in the best of ways, by the way. So, that was just elephant in the room. We did not have our usually scheduled program there. And actually, the week prior, we didn't either. We ended up, you were a little busy there, bud, and I totally get it. So we did a quick episode last week, but I do want to direct you folks as we wrap things up here today to our Brian's briefing that we talked about earlier. We covered a lot of the stuff we talked about here today, but I did in much more detail from an immigration conversation. So go ahead and check that episode out. I will include it right about here, right there in the middle as it pops up as we wrap things up. Yeah, there you go, Remzo. Yeah, thank you very much. So folks, go ahead, give it a share. And by the way, a special shout out to all of our phenomenal sponsors. We have our good friends over at AMP America. Thank you, Remzo, and the amazing team over there. We love AMP America. Very excited to be part of the AMP America family. Also, I want to go ahead and give a shout out to our phenomenal studio sponsor, Cardio Miracle. They are incredible. And then our two new sponsors, Expat Money 2024. Go ahead, check them out, as well as our new sponsor, Clockham Coffee. Really excited to have them here on the show. Go give them some love. All of our sponsors can be found at briannicholsshow.com/sponsors, or just head down below. All those links for those sponsors are in the show notes.
You can find yours truly over on Twitter, on X. You can find me on X. I'm sorry, Elon. Instagram and over on Facebook at B Nichols Liberty. Yes, like I said, Facebook has been throttled. We also have our good buddy Chris Spangle's old We Are Libertarians Facebook page, which is mine now. My takeover is almost complete. But yeah, kidding. Or am I? No, go ahead. I think we're going to start doing some live stuff over there as well, just because my current normal page is just completely nuked. So check that out in a little bit. We're going to be starting the lives over there, also because YouTube hates me and always throttles stuff as well, because I was deemed harmful content from COVID. That was fun, Remzo. Lost monetization over there too. Man, the COVID era was a son of a bitch. With that being said, please go find Remzo over on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. 2 different handles though. Hey Remzo and Go Remzo. Go Remzo
is Go Remzo one is the one I'm really doubling down on currently.
And that's right there. Right there. Yep.
Yeah.
Pointing at for the video.
I've got some cool shit. People don't really like. People will be like, Remzo, what do you do anymore? And I'm like, I still do cool shit. They're like, what are you talking about? So I'm like, I still do some stuff. I hate being in front of a camera. It's always easy with you, Brian, because I can always go back and forth. But I started doing some other stuff on there. So, folks, please go Remzo on Instagram. I've got some cool stuff over there.
All right, buddy. We're going to go ahead and put a pin in today's conversation right there, folks. Thank you for joining us. Again, if you got some value, go ahead, give us some love, hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell, hit that download all unplayed episodes if you are joining us on a podcast. Because if you go to your podcast catcher, you'll see it'll actually give you that option to download all unplayed episodes, because we have over 895 episodes here of the Brian Nichols Show. We're just over 100 episodes away from episode 1000. I'm working on some stuff, by the way, behind the scenes, because I want episode 1000 to be chef's kiss. So stay tuned for that. We're going to see what we do there. But yeah, go ahead, check all those episodes out, because not only do Remzo and I had this conversation once a week, but we also have our week in review episode, plus our Brian's briefing, plus we do an interview with an expert, a guest, or someone there in between. This past week, I did an awesome conversation with Jasper Machugo, Remzo. He is from Kenya. He is a Kenyan farmer, and he is advocating for fossil fuels for Africa. That conversation, by the way, yeah, and he makes an amazing case, and that episode just blew up over on X. I think we have over 15,000 people who checked that episode out in the first 24 hours. So that was freaking awesome. Thank you to you guys. So go ahead, check that episode out. And then my Brian's briefing, as I mentioned. And then, of course, our week in review. Absolutely love you guys. Thank you for being the best audience in libertarian conservative politics. If you are an entrepreneur, thank you for doing your duty, because you're building the solutions that we need out there in the world when the government absolutely drops the ball, because, you know, they're the government. With that being said, I absolutely adore you. Thank you. Check us out. 3 episodes per week. With that being said, signing off for our good buddy Remzo Martinez here on our Amp America Week in Review. We'll see you guys next week, because I had a freaking stroke.